I've been playing with my new iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I've unearthed some interesting insights that I would like to share with you. Now, we're going to be looking at this from a camera-focused, camera-centric perspective, content creation. One thing I want you to note immediately is that this video is actually being filmed with said iPhone. And most, if not all, of what you're going to see in this video is created using this iPhone, with the exception of this mic being used for audio. Disclaimer: photos and videos in this video created with said iPhone have been edited to demonstrate how said photos and videos can operate in James's content creation process. If you want unedited photos and videos, there are other photos and videos that can show you what unedited photos and videos look like from the new iPhone 16 Pro. This program was filmed in front of a live studio audience who was forced to participate. Now, the process of getting this camera set up the way that I need it to be set up to film right now is something that I won't go into too much detail about, but it was a bit convoluted and there are a lot of cables around. I needed to have a monitor. Doing that was surprisingly difficult. My iPad is my monitor. It's flipped on its side and the orientation's like wrong so that it looks right. And yes, it's very possible that there was a much smarter way to do all of that, but here we are. Now, I went out downtown a couple of times with the phone. The first one ended up being an unplanned weather test for the phone because it was a rainy morning. Weather test went fantastic, if you're wondering. It's still working. Then I went out after the hurricane for more context on that. See my most recent video about going to Asheville, where I actually used the phone for a lot of the things that I captured. And then I've been using it in various other situations. Now I want to show you some of the stuff I captured. So here's a couple of the pre-hurricane waterfall. This is with the wide angle. This is with the Fusion. And here's one with the telephoto of the fellow standing on the bridge with an umbrella. And here's a couple of videos I took around the waterfall. Here's a wide angle. You can see fairly low light. Street lights are still on. Now this is fairly dark, and this is auto exposure. This is what the phone did. This is the Fusion camera. So you can see the difference there in how it handles low light. Here's a shot I grabbed of a fellow enjoying his morning cup of something while looking at the waterfall. You can see how the phone really leverages just the little bit of light from the bridge. Here's another rather low light scene taken with the Fusion. Pretty solid, I'd say. And here's a more standard street scene taken from within a walkway. We have the reflections on the ground from the rain and the person walking by. More light, less rain. Here's one I grabbed with the telephoto of a fellow unloading a truck. This one feels a bit more splotchy, less detail. And here I'm revisiting an alleyway that you guys may recognize as well. Wide angle, Fusion. Here I'm looking down an alley with the Fusion, fellow going by in the distance. It looks like a good solid street shot, and it doesn't feel like a phone in a bad way. Here's another one of a rotating door with some people walking by, taken with the Fusion. And then here's one that I captured in Asheville with the phone. This made it into my previous video. And this was taken with the wide angle, and it really worked well for the type of photo that I was trying to capture here. Here's another one captured with the wide angle of that FedEx store that I came across, and once again, really served me well here. Now, I recently went to a family vacation on the beach with only my phone as my cameras. Whilst on a morning run, I came across this facility and thought it would be interesting to photograph. Another one with the Fusion of this quaint little waterside area. Here's one of the beach. And here's one with the Fusion of my wife. I was riding a bike. She was riding a bike. I had the phone in my pocket. I could just whip it out and take photos and also videos. And here's a video from that. We had ended up on this beautiful scenic bike path, and you can see how nice the stabilization is here. I'm riding a bike. This is a one-handed operation. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Send it. Send it. Go. Woo! Now, here are a couple of photos of a ridiculous sunset that happened that I'm going to no filter for you guys. Here's that same sunset after I ran to the beach. Fusion. And then check out this video that I got with the telephoto. This is nuts. Editing James here. I wanted to make what I think is an important point, and that is I've had a very difficult time editing this video with the footage that has come out of the iPhone, particularly the HDR footage. The ProRes log footage seems to look just fine in Premiere, but the HDR footage does not look fine in Premiere. It causes color space issues, and I've known about this for a long time, but I wanted to film everything in kind of standard settings. I won't get too technical, but just to make a practical point, it makes it where my HDR footage and my photos, which I've exported out of Lightroom, don't play well together in the same sequence. You end up with color issues. Now, I don't think this is necessarily an Apple issue. If anything, I would say it's a Premiere issue in the way that it handles HDR video. I'm sure there are a lot of technicalities there. And I would imagine that this footage is much less problematic in Final Cut, for example. And this could also have to do with me. I'm still figuring out my process with this footage, and there may be some reasonable solutions. Right now, the most reasonable solutions are switch to Final Cut or convert my footage, which is both of those are not actually that reasonable. I have my issues with Premiere, but I'm not quite to the point of switching my editing software just yet. So take all the video colors in this video with a grain of salt. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I had an audio sync drift issue with my main talking head footage, which was over 50 minutes long, between the footage and my microphone. Not sure exactly what's going on there. I do know that when I film with my normal camera, that problem doesn't happen, so the inclusion of the iPhone has caused a stir. So I just wanted to put these things before you if you're thinking about shooting with the iPhone and editing the footage in Premiere. Now, I came from the iPhone 12, so the upgrades on this phone were bound to be, you know, more exciting than somebody who comes from the 15. But overall, I've been very impressed. Excellent camera upgrades. 1, 2, 3. Also, I had to figure out which one to look at, so I was holding my finger over the individual cameras. The Fusion camera is fantastic and continues to be the strongest camera visually. The other cameras are also quite good, but they're not quite on par with the level of detail that comes out of the Fusion. And you see that most clearly within the context of low light performance. But with that said, the wide angle does seem to be better in terms of quality and detail, and the new telephoto is very interesting. While I find that it can really suffer sometimes in terms of detail, the new focal length is a fantastic upgrade. I've been having so much fun with it. I found it to be incredibly useful during everyday use. There are so many different situations where it just comes in handy, even down to, you know, my kids are playing outside or something, and I can switch into the telephoto and get some nice polished looking shots of them. But like I said, it seems to do the best when you feed it a lot of light. Overall, from the wide angle to the Fusion camera and the different focal lengths that you can choose within the Fusion camera, which by the way has a lot to do with the 48 megapixel sensor. There's a lot of room to crop in there and still have a lot of quality. All the way to the telephoto, I feel like I have a camera bag in my pocket. The phone feels like a Swiss Army knife, and I find myself more than ever feeling comfortable with taking only my phone out to any given situation. Now let's talk a bit more about some other features, shall we? First, I want to talk about camera control. This is, of course, one of the flagship upgrades, if you can have multiple flagship upgrades, about this new phone. And I have thoughts about it I have mixed feelings. I like the concept. I like the ability to use a multifunctional button to control camera settings and take photos, trigger the camera, what have you. I think the execution is good in some ways and not so good in other ways. And some of this isn't necessarily Apple's fault. Like, for example, I'm a lefty, so my usage of this button is very different than someone who would be right-handed. And for example, me using this button as a shutter button is kind of not a thing for me. I tend to use the volume button or the on-screen button. Editing James here. I was speaking to my wife, who is right-handed, and she said that she does not use the camera control to open the camera. She actually prefers to swipe to open the camera from the lock screen. I think the design is sleek, but functionally it's a little bit problematic because one of the great things about a button is that you can find it with your finger without having to look for it visually. You can find the button, interact with it, and that makes the amount of mental complexity in using the button much smaller. In this case, the button is flush with the phone, so finding the button is very difficult, especially when you hold it like me with my left hand and it's kind of in a different, it's in a weird position. I have to sort of contort my hand to get down there to the button. Now, one thing I did was I bought one of the Apple cases, the silicone case, and that actually helps because now it makes the button not flush. It makes the button more of a button that you can find. So that's helpful. Funny. The case improved the design of the phone. I also found that there's a bit of a maybe learning curve, maybe adaptation curve to using this thing. It was an awkward inclusion for me when I first started using it. I was having a hard time figuring out what to do with it. And I found that the idea of using it to access controls that I'm so used to operating with the touchscreen was a weird dynamic to play with, and I'm still kind of going on that journey. But it's growing a little bit, but it's just this really interesting slow dynamic of figuring out what to do with it. I certainly don't find that I'm switching settings with it. I kind of just leave it in one setting, and that might just be a personal usage thing. You guys might use it differently. That's just been my experience. I don't find myself going, joyfully switching between settings all the time with the dial, with the little, trackpad-ness of it. And they made it kind of feel like that's what would happen when you use it. That's not been my experience. I also found that I really enjoy switching the action button to being the button that opens my camera. That's a bit problematic because I want to use the action button for other things, such as a flashlight. But I do find that I use the camera control button to open it too. But, it starts to get really complicated. It's like, which button do I use to open, which button do I use to do stuff? And I think a helpful thing to pay attention to is, how do you naturally use the device? That's just something to take note of when we're thinking about the design of this product. I'd be curious to know how you right-handers out there use this product. Do you find yourself using the camera control more? Is that more intuitive for you? It makes sense because the volume control is more intuitive for me to snap the shutter. So maybe if you're flipping it the other way, maybe the camera control is more intuitive. I don't know. I'm just a lefty with an opinion. My big hangups for content creation, particularly in the post-production process right now, are the same hangups I've always had with the iPhone, and that is things like file management. The file management process for me on the iPhone is awkward and weird and frustrating. I find the way that the Photos app is currently set up to be really not intuitive. I always feel like I'm using more brain power to accomplish something. And also, getting ProRes videos off of the iPhone was one of the most frustrating content creation processes that I've experienced in a long time. I had to go on this long journey trying to figure out how to get those files off of the phone onto my computer, only to find myself at an Apple article that reminds me that the image capture app is still a thing, and this is like the way you're supposed to offload videos. And then I did that, and that just didn't work. I couldn't get them to transfer over. Of course, I tried AirDrop, but that was like this slow, clunky, weird process that wasn't really working at all. I finally ended up buying more storage on Google Drive, uploading the files to Google Drive, and then downloading them onto my laptop. So that might be me. I've been making videos for a very long time. Something feels weird about the fact that I can't just plug in my phone, and fine, whatever, encrypted data, Apple proprietary software for transfer, that's fine, whatever. It didn't work. So I just find the whole file management journey on the phone to be awkward, and I'm happy to figure out ways to make that less awkward. And I'm not saying that all of that is Apple's fault. I'm just kind of putting forth what my experience has been. Another thing is screen size, and this is just what it is. The screen size on the new phone is fantastic. I have the biggest one, but just naturally, if I'm trying to do real big scale work on all the stuff I've captured on the phone, I want to get it off the phone and onto my laptop so that I can have plenty of screen real estate to interact with it and, go into Lightroom, use all my key commands, that sort of thing. So what I find is, for me, it's very solid for small jobs. It can do bigger jobs, but the process, like I said, is awkward for me. Now I want to talk about video a little bit. I'd say excellent upgrades for video. This phone has been so fun for me to use to shoot video. Once again, it's like a camera bag in my pocket, and the ability to switch between the wide angle to the fusion to the telephoto, and it's been a lot of fun. And on the level of capturing, the process is very low friction, and that's amazing. That's exactly what you want with something like this. You don't have to do much to pick this thing up, hit record, and be capturing some really solid stuff, photos or videos. The stabilization on all cameras is fantastic. It's buttery smooth. It looks wonderful. 4K to 120 FPS looks great. ProRes log, no complaints. I mean, the file sizes are huge, but that's just what you get with ProRes. I was poking around with the ability to plug in a hard drive and record ProRes to the hard drive. That was very intuitive once I understood what I was supposed to do. I plugged it in, opened the camera app. You have to switch it to ProRes, and it'll tell you that it's connected to USB. That, like, I wish there was a pop-up. That would probably be good. Like, this is what you're supposed to do here. Might be good to allow the ability to record non-ProRes to the hard drive as well, but pretty solid implementation, I think. Another thing that I had some issues with initially was the ability to preserve my settings for shooting. So if I want ProRes on or off, I want that to be preserved. If I want RAW on or off, I want that to be preserved. I had not messed with the preserve settings setting recently, so I had to kind of relearn how to do this. But at first I was panicking a little bit because I was worried that the setting was going to flip back to default every time I reopened the camera. But I dug into the settings and then realized you can determine if you want to preserve the setting or not. So I had to figure this out, but great implementation. I will say, one of the issues that I see in general with the way the iPhone deals with settings extends to the camera app, and that is that you have to go out of your camera app and other apps and then go into settings and then go find the settings for that app in settings, like global, the settings app. You have to find whatever you're trying to switch. It is other apps obviously put the settings within the app, and this just feels so much more intuitive to me. If I'm having a trouble in the app and I want to figure out how to preserve settings, it feels so much more intuitive to click 3 little dots in the app and it opens up the settings for the app. And then I can switch all that stuff and then come back out. I'm still in the app. I'm sure there are reasons. I'm sure they have their reasons, but I just once again, this feels unintuitive to me, but maybe you guys feel differently about that. And then I'll just mention a couple of quick final things. One, as I mentioned earlier, I got a case. Now, this phone, from what I understand, is supposed to be stronger than previous phones, but I decided to get a case for various reasons. But one thing I found to be really nice about this case is, one, it makes the phone very grippy. The interaction with the phone with that grippiness has been a nice experience. Historically, I've been a no-caser, and I like the feel of the phone. Oh, the feeling of the phone itself is like fantastic. And I plan to have this phone for a while. I don't upgrade every year. So I really want to take care of this one. My last one got beat up pretty bad. I just find that, this Apple silicone case makes it feel a bit more rugged, and that combined with the feeling of a content creation Swiss Army knife dynamic, that put together feels really nice for me. Something to think about for, your own purposes. And like I said, it helps with the camera control button. Another thing that is missing from my shooting experience with this phone, which is just kind of how it works, is an EVF. There's nothing like putting my camera up to my eye and blocking out the world, having nice large image of what I'm taking a photo of. The huge screen is nice, but there's nothing quite like it. I would love to play with some other camera apps to see how they're working with all this new fanciness. Perhaps they can utilize the camera control in some interesting ways. And then finally, I'll mention a very interesting new setting in the camera's settings, and that is the ability to choose which focal length you want to have as default for the Fusion camera. And I think this is brilliant. Like, this could be great for something like street photography. If you want to consistently shoot in a 35mm focal length, you can have your camera default to that. Really clever thing that could have easily been left out. But anyway, that's about it. I'm very impressed. It feels like a content creation Swiss Army knife. It's, of course, very pocketable and very capable for my needs. I could see myself doing everything that I need to do, both in terms of photo and video creation, with this phone. And that's nuts. May we never get over that. And it goes back to what I mentioned in my previous video. This is so good for the normal person who's like a woodworker who just wants to create some videos and put them up on YouTube and share their process. And they're not like they haven't been shooting and editing videos for 10 years. They don't want to poke around with the full frame and the lenses and the ProRes and all this stuff. They just want a simple content creation process that can handle the whole pipeline for them. It might suffer a little bit on file management and editing. You might want to get it off onto a computer, but this phone can do I mean, technically it could do all of it, but it could do a lot of it for you simply. It's amazing that this Swiss Army knife can get in the hands of so many different kinds of people who want to make content. So pretty neat, recommended. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, engage with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, if you want to hit the like button, if you want to subscribe, I would really appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for watching again. And also thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, you can make a minor change in the world if you work really hard. I will now switch to telephoto. God bless. Thanks for watching.